Something I've been trying to do recently when it comes to playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is trying to subvert the Link format. Now, of course, the advent of Link monsters has made the game change irrevocably, for some people for the worse. For myself, yeah, I don't want to be playing Link monsters. I think DZ, another YouTuber, said it better than I could, and I paraphrase here completely, so do forgive me. But he said something along the lines of, Link monsters are basically just worse monsters that allow you to play old Yu-Gi-Oh! And honestly, I just rather play old Yu-Gi-Oh! And the thing is, there's not many ways of doing that. However, actually, while trying to find ways of subverting Link format, Konami's actually doing a pretty good job of doing exactly that themselves, because they've been doing some amazing legacy support for old archetypes and old stuff from the animes, that actually don't work with Link format, so they've been making them work so they work independently from them. So, the thing is with Link summoning, is of course it makes it so you can only use one extra deck monster at a time if you're not using links. So actually most decks from really old archetypes, especially from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, actually didn't really focus on having too many extra deck monsters on the field at any one time. And if they do, then actually the new support they've been giving them has kind of made that a lot easier to do, even under Link format. So today we are going to be talking about the Cyberdarks, of course, archetype that got support in Legendary Duelist, which have been out in the TCG for a little while now. So now it's enough for a lot of us to get a handle of the cards and what we can do with them. Now, today, I'm going to be showcasing a deck for you that is one way of building Cyberdarks. Of course, you can see that it uses a Wind Witch engine, and for those of you who don't have Wind Witches, or it's not very budget friendly, or whatever, they are going to get reprints in the future. That has been confirmed. However, I am showcasing this deck as opposed to another deck that may be better or worse or whatever, because I personally think that the Wind Witch deck packs a lot more wallop, is better, in addition to being a lot more fun to pilot, I think. But let me just go through the deck. I'll tell you the strategies, the combos, the things you can achieve with this deck, and then I'm going to be just kind of, yeah, you know what, that's it. It's easy breezy. It's just like good old school deck profile, just like Ma used to make. So let's actually just go through the list and then tell you bit by bit what they are doing. So, Wind Witches, of course, the elephant in the room. We're using a classic engine of 3 Ice Bell, 2 Glass Bell, and a single Snow Bell. And, of course, in the extra deck, we have a Winter Bell. We have, of course, the infamous Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, alongside a Clear Wing, of course, as another monster to summon from them. Now, the main thing that you want to keep in mind with the Wind Witches, of course, like most people that include them in a deck as an engine, is most of the time they're just using it to get Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And of course, a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is even more fearsome if you can't destroy by card effects, which of course Snowbell allows you to be. But the thing is with Wind Witches is actually there are some synergies that they have with other archetypes that make them a better inclusion in some decks than others. Now, Wind Witches, of course, have been very good when used with Invokes, for example, because of course they are wind, which means they can be used as a fusion material for Rage In. However, in this deck, because of the utility that some of the Cyberdark monsters have, they actually have some amazing synergies and some amazing plays, which make use of some pretty awesome cards from the past that I am personally a fan of. So, other than that, though, we'll get to that later on, but we are, of course, using the classic Wind Witch engine. Now, let's talk about the heavy hitters. The main thing, the reason why you're here, and that is the Cyberdark monsters. We are using a total of 7 Cyberdark machine monsters. Now, pretty much all of them, Keel, Horn, and Edge respectively, are all the same, essentially. They all have pretty much the same effect, and they're pretty lackluster, they're pretty bad. Power Creep has hit them very bad. Of course, probably one of my favourite archetypes from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Zane Truesdale, used these in Season 2, when he realised that actually he was going to be Shadow the Hedgehog, the edgelord we all wanted to be. It was a very influential time in my life when he was the coolest thing around, and I mean, it had 100% more edge than the classics cyber monsters, so, pun intended, you can't help but have a soft spot for him and these monsters. But the thing is, time has not looked upon these monsters very well. Power Creep has made these cards very hard, and even at the time of their release, Cyberdark Impact was probably very infamous at the time for being a set which had like no competitive value and was just very bad. Cyberdarks then were also very bad. Cyberdarks now, without their new support, still very bad. But with the new support, they are really impactful now. For those of you who don't know what the original Cyberdarks were all about, though, they are a series of dark level 4 machine monsters with 800 attack and defense each. Pretty lackluster, but their effects helped against this. So they have 3 effects which are across all 3 of them, and then they all have a unique effect onto themselves. So all of them, when they are normal summoned, allow you to get a dragon monster from your graveyard that is level 3 or lower and equip it to them as an equip card. In addition to that, they would then gain attack equal to the attack of the equipped monster. Also, if they would be destroyed by battle, you would destroy the monster that is equipped with them instead. Now, all of them have an effect that is unique. Horn does piercing battle damage. Keel, when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you do 300 damage to your opponent. And Edge, the best one, allows you to attack directly with it, but it halves its attack, doing damage calculation if you do. Now, the cool thing about this is that this deck is really incentivized to be attacking every single turn. If you're not attacking every single turn, then you're probably losing. But the reason why Edge is probably the best one by far is because you're incentivized to attack so often, you will be attacking into boards that are just going to be better than you. So being able to attack directly and still get the benefits from attacking is all the better, because it means that you don't have to minus yourself by attacking into a monster that you're just not going to be able to defeat in battle. So they're all pretty good. Now, the reason why we're using Keel outright is because we are using 7 Cyberdark monsters, which are machines, which is just a good ratio. So we're using that. You can use Cyberdark Impact, so you can fuse for the original Cyberdark Dragon, but I chose not to use it in this deck because it's just not that great. And not really necessary. There's a lot of space. There isn't a lot of space in the extra deck. So this is literally just here as an additional Cyberdark monster. But that being said, I mean, the difference between 300 damage when it destroys opponent's monster by battle, or piercing damage with a monster whose attack is actually relatively low most of the time, no higher than 2400, actually, the effects can be pretty interchangeable. So if you wanted to have, like, more copies of Keel in place of a Horn, then go for it. The only one that is really necessary is having 3 copies of Edge, since he is the most practical of them. Now, next off, we have the new Cyberdark monsters. Now, the thing is with the Cyberdarks is they had a relation with dragon monsters, because Zane Truesdale, the edgelord that he is, uses dragons, because dragons are cool. However, they use probably the most impractical dragons they synergize with, which are ones that are level 3 or lower, which makes it very hard for them to actually get any decent dragons, because most of them are level 4 or higher, because they're dragons, they're big, and they have big levels because of it. So Cyberdark Cannon and Cyberdark Claw help fill in a gap in the Cyberdark archetype that has been needed for years, absolute years. So both Claw and Cannon, just like the original Cyberdarks, are both practically identical. However, they have some key differences that differ in their uses. Now, we're using 3 copies of them both. You can't really use any less than 3 copies because they're that good and that important to the deck. Now, Cyberdark Cannon, first, of course, is a monster that, if it is sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, you get to draw a card. Claw, when it's sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, allows you to get a Cyberdark monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Now, Cannon obviously just allows you to draw a card. Now, even if you don't have a Cyberdark in your graveyard for Claw's effect, it actually can target itself when in the graveyard, so it will at least be able to add itself back to the hand. But why would you want this in your hand anyway? Don't we want dark dragon monsters in the graveyard for our original Cyberdarks? Well, you're not wrong there. However, both Cannon and Claw both have an effect when they're discarded from the hand. So Cannon, when you discard it from the hand, allows you to add a Cyberdark machine monster from your deck to your hand, allowing you to set up a original Cyberdark immediately. You discard this, search for this, equip this to this, and immediately you will be able to use its effects and reap the benefits of it. Claw, on the other hand, allows you to discard it from the hand to add a Cyberdark spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. We don't have many, but we do have a new one with Cyberdark Inferno, which I'll be talking about later, but it's a very good effect that actually, you want it mainly for its equip effect, because they both have an effect while equipped to a monster. Cannon, during damage calculation, if the monster it is equipped to battles, allows you to Foolish Burial, so it allows you to send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. Cyberdark Claw, however, has a much better effect. Now, it's exactly the same, but instead of sending a monster from your main deck to the graveyard, it sends a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard when the monster is equipped to battles. So this is amazing. Now, even if you weren't going to win a battle because your monsters are still not powerful enough, you have a plethora of monsters you can now send to the graveyard when these effects activate to get you amazing value and utility. What this Claw does, and what this Cannon does to a lesser extent, it gives another gimmick and another appeal to using Cyberdark other than the really gimmick the really gimmicky gimmick of machines and dragons in the same deck. This is a deck that allows you to send any monster in the game to the graveyard, and allow you to reap the benefits of. So today we're going to be doing exactly that. So Cannon, of course, is your main starter card. You discard it from your hand to add a Cyberdark machine monster from your deck to hand. Of course, these are both dragons, so are unsearchable by Cannon. But the thing is with that, of course, it'll immediately set up you having maybe you'll discard Cannon from your hand, search for Edge, normal summon Edge, Edge equips Cannon, and then Cannon is now equipped to Edge. In addition to that, though, this sends a monster from the deck to the graveyard. Because Claw allows you to send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, it is really important you get this in the graveyard as soon as possible. Even if you don't use its effect to add a Cyberdark spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, that effect is not nearly as important as sending cards from your extra deck to the graveyard, which is kind of the main point of this deck. So getting Cannon first actually allows you to send Claw to the graveyard pretty early on. So getting Cannon early on in the game is going to be integral. However, if you open with Claw, then, well, all the better for you, because Cannon's great at the beginning to mid of the game, whilst Claw is good at any point of the game, honestly, assuming you have other Cyberdark machine monsters. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the monster lineup. The only other monster that we're using that isn't a Wind Witch or a Cyberdark is Dragonbuster Destruction Sword. Now, this is a really minor monster, and that doesn't necessarily need to be used. Of course, it is Buster Blader support, and has no effect of its own that can make it so it's equipped to one of your monsters. However, if it is equipped to a monster, then it makes it so your opponent can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. So this is great against certain matchups that are very extra deck heavy, which this deck isn't, so it's always good for those. But that being said, while equipped to a Cyberdark monster, their attack will only be 1200, so they're really easy to run over. But for decks which are so focused on the extra deck and can't really get any other threats on board otherwise, then actually having a Cyberdark Corn or an Edge equipped with Destruction Sword Dragon Buster can really be crippling. So I do like its inclusion at 1. Just being able to send it to the graveyard if you don't have anything better to send to the graveyard with Cannon once you've sent Claw already, is always nice as a freebie one of, really. So that is our monster lineup. Now, when it comes to our spells, they kind of look like they're all over the place, and we've got some pretty interesting tech cards here. But let's start off with the new Cyberdark Field spell that they got here, and that's the reason why they are now as impactful as they are. Because as much as Claw and Cannon are very good, having a 2400 attack point monster that you have to normal summon and has some great Foolish Burial and Foolish Burial goods effects attached or whatever. Actually, it doesn't send spells and traps, but it sends stuff from the extra deck. But anyway, regardless, that's still not good enough in today's meta. They need protection, and Inferno allows you to do exactly that. Your opponent cannot target Cyberdark effect monsters you controlled that are equipped with equipped cards with card effects, and they also can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects. So this basically makes them all into miniature Cosmos spaceships, which is really, really just frustrating to have to deal with, because then they only have to be destroyed in battle, and they already have a destruction by battle protection effect, which means they're actually quite hard to get off the field. And once you get a couple of attacks in because of Claw and Cannon, the amount of advantage and value they gain from it is just astronomical. So having Inferno on the board most of the time during the duel is ideal, in addition to it being searchable by Claw. Now, that being said, we're only using 2 copies of it because actually it doesn't do much in terms of setting up future plays. However, when it is on the field, it allows you to kind of, it's kind of more of a, it's good if you've already got your setup. If you don't have your setup, having 3 copies of this and opening with this card is not ideal. Ideally, you don't want to open with this card at all because you want to have Claw to search for it, and then you get the Claw in the graveyard because of it. In addition to the targeting and destruction protection that it gives Cyberdark effect monsters, though, it also has a couple of other effects. So once per turn, you can target a Cyberdark monster you control, return it to the hand, and then immediately after that effect resolves, you can normally summon a Cyberdark monster. Now, this also helps you address another thing that the Cyberdarks had a problem with, was that, of course, now that they're really hard to destroy, well, you just need to destroy what's equipped to them to make it so they are unprotected and very weak. However, with that, of course, if they are on the field with nothing equipped to them, they're pretty useless. So you want to have other ways of just kind of being able to equip them with more dragons in your graveyard. So what this allows you to do is just return them to the hand and immediately summon them again, allowing you to flicker them and then immediately trigger their effect to equip them with another dragon from your graveyard. So this allows you to reset them, assuming that the Cannon and Claw gets destroyed, which your opponent is going to be wanting to do fairly swiftly. The last effect is just kind of gravy at this point. And it's an effect that activates when it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect. So there's no way you can really make use of this yourself. You can't proactively destroy it because it has to be your opponent that destroys it. But if you do, it allows you to search for a polymerization spell card or a fusion spell and then add it from your deck to your hand. Now this effect is great because in addition to that, we are also running Future Fusion, Overload Fusion, and my personal favourite, Miracle Synchro Fusion, which is the reason why we're using a Wind Witch engine in this deck. So this allows you to search for any of these cards, which is just so good. So since we're here, Future Fusion, of course, since we were talking about it, of course, has now been errated, which means, of course, you have to wait a turn for you to be able to get the immediate effect of it. But this is a card used by Zane Truesdale, and when it comes to the new support that the Cyberdark's got, you can definitely tell that Konami had Overload Fusion and Future Fusion in mind when it came to that. Of course, allowing them to be searchable by their field spell, it also synergizes well with their new boss monster. So Future Fusion, of course, will allow you to, after the first standby phase, after it's activated, send a load of monsters from your deck to the graveyard. Chimera Tech over Dragon Styly, you'll be selecting Cyber Darkness Dragon, which is an amazing card. Level 10 for 2000 attack and 2000 defense, and it requires 5 Cyberdark effect monsters. So it doesn't even matter. You don't have to use one of each. You can use one of each if you want to be for the flavor, but you'll be able to send 5 effect monsters to the graveyard. So you can just set up your graveyard early in the game with just cannons and claws in your graveyard, so you don't have to draw them. So every Cyberdark you draw will be immediately great because it will have a target already in the graveyard. Now, if you manage to actually summon a Cyberdark Dragon after the second standby phase, then you probably won, if not already winning, because at that point, Cyberdarkness Dragon can really truly shine, because when it is summoned, you get to equip a dragon or a machine from your graveyard to itself, so it doesn't even have to be a dragon ideally, but most of the time you're going to be equipping it with a cannon or a claw because you get the most benefit out of it, because it gains attack equal to the original attack of the monster equipped to it, so it will be 3600 because it's already got 2000 attack and defense as a base. However, when your opponent activates a card or effect, and this is a quick effect, you can send an equip card you control to the graveyard to negate the activation if you do destroy that card. This effect is stupid. The equip card doesn't even need to be equipped to itself. It can be equipped to any of your Cyberdark monsters. You can just get rid of it and then immediately negate and destroy, which is fantastic because in addition to that, if you send a cannon or a claw, you also get to draw a card or add a Cyberdark monster from your graveyard to your hand, respectively, because their first effects activate when they're sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, which Cyberdarkness Dragon will activate. So you have this on the field, you can't lose. This is an in-theme Cyber Dragon Infinity, except it's edgy and cool and can be summoned by Overload Fusion as well if you've got enough monsters in your graveyard, which is going to be very easy to do with Future Fusion and or with your Cyberdark Cannon. Of course, being able to send so many monsters from your deck to the graveyard, actually just hard casting Overload Fusion is actually pretty viable. I'm only using one copy of it because it is searchable and most of the time you're going to be only going to get the one use out of it. But Miracle Synchro Fusion is probably the most weirdest choice out of this, because Miracle Synchro Fusion, for those of you who don't know, was used back in the day. Now, I used to play Grand Soil Psychics. Jeff Jones used to play that back when he was a man, and Miracle Synchro Fusion was a really spicy tech for Grand Soil Psychics, because it allowed you to summon powerful fusion monsters that required synchros as part of their fusion materials. Now, Wind Witches also have a fusion monster, Wind Witch Crystal Bell, which is a fusion monster that does require Wind Witch Winterbell, a synchro monster, as one of its materials. And it has a great, amazing effect. Being able to summon it from Miracle Synchro Fusion is fantastic as well, because in addition to being able to use synchro monsters and other fusion materials, it allows you to do it from the graveyard as well. So if you've got the fusion materials in your graveyard, then you can use Miracle Synchro Fusion to summon it. In addition to that, if you've already drawn this card and you can't use it, then you can just set it, because if it's set and it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect, so Twin Twisters or anything like that, then you just get to draw a card. It's pretty nice. It floats. Shit floats, man. pretty good. But the reason why we're using 3 copies of this card, of course, is because we want to maximize our chances of summoning Crystal Bell. Because Crystal Bell, you summon it, you win. It's pretty self-explanatory, really. Now, we use the Wind Witch engine. If we open with Wind Witch Ice Spell, then we go for the normal combo of it summoning itself because of its own effect, and then summoning Glass Spell. Glass Spell searches for Snowbell, and then you summon Snowbell from your hand because you control 2 or more wind monsters. You then, of course, Synchro Summon for Winterbell, and then you Synchro Summon with the Snowbell to summon a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon that can't be destroyed by card effects. However, if for whatever reason you have Cyberdark monsters on the field, or if you don't open with it, you want to get Winterbell into your graveyard as fast as possible because it is a fusion material for Crystal Bell, and you can fuse with materials in your graveyard because of Miracle Synchro Fusion. So, because of that, Claw and Cannon have great targets, because if Claw is able to send this card to the graveyard, Independent Nightingale to the graveyard, and then also send a Winterbell to the graveyard, when you fusion summon a Miracle Synchro Fusion, assuming you also have a regular Wind Witch in your graveyard because of Cannon, you'll be able to summon Crystal Bell, using its effect to banish a monster in your graveyard, and it will gain the effects of that monster. Now, for those of you who don't know what Lyrilusk Independent Nightingale is, it's the entire reason why the Tyrant Neptune is banned. There are decks in the OCT that, of course, use the Tyrant Neptune alongside this card and Instant Fusion to summon a monster with a really high level and just burn your opponent out. For those who don't know what Independent Nightingale does, it is a level 1 monster with 1000 attack and 0 defense. Its fusion materials are irrelevant because we are never going to be fusion summoning this card. We're going to be sending it straight to the graveyard with Claw. The effects that are relevant are the fact that it gains attack equal to its level times 500. Now, it being level 1 means it will gain 500 attack. Well, Crystal Bell is a level 8 monster, so that will gain 4000 attack with that effect. In addition to the fact that once per turn, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to its level times 500. You banish that into your graveyard, this card will be 6800 attack, and then be able to do 4000 damage to your opponent immediately. Pretty good. And if it doesn't win you on that turn, then I'll be very surprised if anything wins you that turn. So that makes the Wind Witch engine even better, honestly. It's what really puts this deck over the top is how many win conditions this deck has. You can win through attrition because these cards are the ultimate floaters, but in addition to that, you can also summon Cyberdarkness Dragon with your cool fusions. Controlling the board with stuff like Elder Entity Natis, which when sent to the graveyard allows you to destroy a card on the field. So Claw makes all of your Cyberdark monsters just instant removal for any type of card. You can also send Chimera Rafflesia to the graveyard, and then during your next standby phase, search for a Polymerization or a Fusion card. So you can just actively be searching out for your Future Fusion, your Overload Fusion, or your Miracle Synchro Fusion whenever you want it. The deck has so many goddamn options that it's gross. This deck is just gross. It's so cool and it's so much fun. Oh my gosh, it has so many answers and is really impactful. And honestly, like, the stars align in a slightly different way. I honestly could see this deck becoming a rogue pick for maybe a regional or a higher event because it has so many options that really make this deck kind of... It could do something. It could be a contender. I could do something. I don't know. But either way, guys, that's pretty much it. The rest of the deck is pretty self-explanatory. Dualities, Solemns, Upstart. You know, it's all simple stuff. But being able to summon Crystal Bell with Independent Nightingale, your own Cyberdarkness Dragon, which can negate everything and plus off it. You'll be able to send anything to the graveyard to either pop cards, search for cards, and just be obnoxious. Like, this deck is amazing. And I definitely implore you should definitely check it out, because you know what I found? I found Independent Nightingale in a bulk like £1 kind of like buy as many as you want kind of thing. And you know what? That card is not dead. Just because Tyrant Neptune is banned doesn't mean you can stop the Cyberdark menace. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos you would like me to do, then do say so in the comments down below. And tell me what you think about Cyberdarks as well. There are plenty of other builds out there, so I would love to hear what you think about them. But that's pretty much it, guys. Let your inner edgelord out. Embrace Embrace the silliness. It's fun, and that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, but until next time, my name is Jack Clark, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Musketeer. More videos coming out to you soon, but until then, goodbye.